Hello YouTube. I'm going to be reading from A New Concept of the Universe, written by Walter Russell, The Unknown and Unsuspected Mystery of Magnetic Poles. Number 26. There are 4 magnetic poles in every wave field, not 2 as heretofore believed. A 3-dimensional cube-bounded sphere-centered radial universe would be impossible with but 2 magnetic poles. The 2 unsuspected magnetic poles are not unknown, however. They are the 2 foci so casually referred to in Kepler's law of elliptical orbits, and they are in a plane of 90 degrees from the plane of the positive and negative north and south poles. The 2 as yet ignored magnetic poles have already been referred to as east and west magnetic poles. The office of these east and west positive and negative poles is to control the balance of prolating and ovulating spheres and their orbits as they contract into spheres and expand into rings equatorially, in opposition to the north and south poles, which control the balance of extension and contraction in the direction of rotating poles. Number 27. Nature is engaged slowly in the manufacture of spheres of solid matter surrounded by cube wave fields of tenacious space. Spheres are created by extending the flat disks, which are the inert gases, into rings and spheroids, which gradually become spheres. The opposition of the north and south magnetic poles is accountable for that. They thrust away from each other as hard as they can to fulfill the generative half of the electric cycle. The generative half is the polarizing half. It is the vitalizing half, comparable to the maturing years of a man's life from babyhood to 40 years. The north and south poles thrust not only against each other's resistance, but against the opposition thrust of the east and west poles, which finally concur the generative power of gravity and ovulate spheres into spheroids, then thrust spheroids into rings and disks until the depolarization process is complete. The depolarizing radiative half of the cycle might be likened to the aging later half of a man's life. The forces of thrusting are electric. The division into opposite conditions is electric. Magnetic poles control and balance the 2 electric dividers of the universal equilibrium, but the work of extension from the fulcrum of stillness is entirely electric. Electricity is the engine which supplies the motivating force to the universal ship, but polarity supplies the rudder and the balance which every moving body must have. Electricity is the physical expression which creation is, but the magnetic light of the universe is the source of that expression, which acts under the spiritual direction and control of magnetic poles of light. Poles appear only when motion begins its division of 1 into 2 and disappear when the 2 cease to be 2 in their unity as 1. Number 28. Nature generates matter from rings into spheres by the way of north-south poles and radiates spheres back into rings by the way of their equatorial east and west poles. In this manner, matter emerges from space to form moving bodies and is swallowed up by space to disappear in the stillness of their zero source. Reciprocative workings of opposing poles. North-south poles balance and control the prolating of spheres which nature needs for the forming of bodies and their division into pairs. They extend into opposite directions at the angles of 90 degrees from wave axes to form poles of rotation for spherical body forms. They are the shafts of waves and of all spheres which spin upon shafts. East-west poles balance and control the ovulating of spheres which nature no longer needs for its body forms. They extend on wave axes to equators of forming spheres. They are the rims of the wheels which spin upon the north-south shafts. North-south poles control the division of equilibrium into 2 opposed conditions which occupy opposite sides of mutual equators. East-west poles exercise their control from equators of forming spheres and balance the movements of all orbits and all aphelia and periphelia of orbits as matter appears from its fulcrum and disappears into it. East-west poles mark upon spheres' equators the seemingly oscillations of the north-south piston strokes as the compression of gravity and the expansion of radiation cross and recross equators to perform the work of unfolding and the refolding body forms of mind idea. North-south poles control centripetal windings of spheres which form where the apices of two cones meet, and east-west poles control centrifugal unwindings of spheres and sphered systems into cone bases at wave axes. North-south poles divide the one condition into two against the resistance of east-west polarity, while east-west poles unite the two conditions into one against the resistance of north-south polarity and keep balance between opposite hemispheres and hemispheroids. North-south polarity, for example, controls the electric division of the one balanced condition of sodium chloride into two unbalanced conditions. Sodium chloride is the fulcrum. Sodium and chlorine are the opposite ends of the lever, which is extended from the fulcrum like two children on opposite ends of a seesaw. East-west polarity controls the electric withdrawal of the two extensions into their fulcrum, thus uniting the two extended equators with their fulcrum at wave amplitude. Instead of three equators for the two extensions, there is now but one equator for the united pair. North-south poles give one of the three dimensions which this dimensionless equilibrium needs for the projection of its illusions, while east-west poles give the other two. The one dimension of north-south polarity is length, for poles of rotation have no other dimension as they are but one radius of a sphere. The other two dimensions are width and breadth, for equators of spheres are circles, and circles have infinite radii. North-south poles extend away from each other at an angle of 90 degrees from the equators to divide the universal one condition into two opposed conditions. East-west poles remain upon the planes of their equators to unite the two divided conditions into one balanced condition. North-south directions lead away from each other out into infinity. Their opposites and opposites oppose until depolarization voids all polarity.